You're listening to DisasterClass podcast by Instinct Ready Emergency Management. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of DisasterClass. I'm Jason Perez.
And I am Wesley Long.
And Wesley, it is good to be back.
Yeah, man.
So, what's the topic of today, Wesley? I think it's a fitting topic, especially considering your job at Instinct Ready.
So yeah, one of the hats that I wear.
Yes, you have many hats at Instinct Ready, but one of your hats is Director of Community Preparedness and Engagement, right? Yep. And that's our topic today is community
engagement. That's what we're talking about.
Wesley, as the Director of Community Engagement, why don't you tell our listeners, what is community engagement? Okay,
so I mean, I chose that title because it can mean kind of anything at any time, but more specifically, it's really like a process of working with groups, organizations, individuals to address issues that might affect their well-being, right? So thinking about like a group, right? So the goal is to achieve something sustainable, sustainable outcomes that improve the community and the members therein. So really, it's a pretty broad topic. It can mean different things at different times to different people in different ways. But really, it's like looking at individuals as a group and seeing what we can do to benefit that group as a whole. And then the key, one of the words there is sustainability, right? Something that we can consistently do and make better.
Yeah. And so when we think about like a community, right, we think of, and FEMA talks about the whole community, but within that community, there's all these subgroups, right? And all these different aspects of that community. Yeah. So it's, well, how do we get everyone to work together? So let's think a little bit about the application to emergency management to emergency readiness, right? Yeah. Essentially, we boil it down to let's get everyone to work together to achieve a common goal of building a more resilient community to mitigate disaster risk, to keep everyone just going, working along, accomplishing all the things we need to. Now, emergency managers and officials, right? We're constantly working to develop strategies to mitigate disaster risk, but to work, right? We need, what's that thing we like to say, Wesley? We need to get that stakeholder.
You need to get the stakeholder buy-in. You got to get people to believe in it, to become a part of it, to champion it.
Right. That's it. So that's kind of one of the goals of community engagement is getting that people to embrace these things that we're trying to develop to be able to help, right?
Right. And again, not to oversimplify it, right? But, a manager or someone far away can write a document or come up with a plan, and it might be the best plan in the world. But if the people that are involved in it don't care or don't know, if they're not passionate about it, it's not worth anything, right? That's the issue. Got to take these plans. That stakeholder buy-in is so important so people can get it, realize that it affects them, and that they are now working toward that goal that was on that piece of paper that somebody else wrote maybe far away.
Right. It kind of got me thinking a little bit, Wesley, about seatbelts. Right. So, just thinking about the, seatbelts, right? This is this invention, and it has a really great purpose, right? Save lives and reduce the amount of deaths and injuries in auto accidents. But, you have this great invention. And to date, it's credited with saving countless lives, right? But when they were first introduced, it was met with a lot of apprehension, a lot of opposition. People didn't think they needed it, right?
Didn't want it.
Right. And there's even I was reading some articles and doing a little research on this, and there was even all these kind of crazy rumors that were spread that they were actually harmful. So, back in, time when they were first being introduced, you had people cutting them out of the cars and things like that. In fact, I don't know. I mean, Wesley, when you were a kid, do you remember what like kind of the general mindset was back then?
So,
I mean,
first of all, I'm not that old.
well, I
So
know you're
stop.
not that old, but
So
here
stop.
it's like, so
A. And B, we're not going to talk about what I may or may not have done or thought about seatbelts. However, since we are also EMS, we are responding
right,
EMTs, and us EMTs love to tell their stories. I will share one story.
please.
I went to one accident, and it was on Route 84 in Danbury, and near the mall. And a lot of people don't know where this is, but by exit 3, there's a massive cemetery on the right side if you're heading towards Danbury, heading deeper into Connecticut. And in order to kind of like not show that, they've got this wooden wall of slats that kind of make it so you can't see that there's a cemetery on the other side. I'm responding to this call at the cemetery, and we get there and we realize that a massive SUV had been flying on 84, took multiple turns, went through that wooden barrier into the cemetery. Now, like, as EMTs, we're always trying to do our scene size up before we even get
Right.
there. We're trying to get a feel for how big this is. Is this the big one? Is this just going to be a run of the mill? So as we're pulling up to it, the look of it, I was like, this is not good. Like, this is really bad. The SUV, I remember it was a Chevy Suburban, was like destroyed. You can see it turned over so many times. It was the great rate of speed at which, pardon me, it was traveling, right? So I was like, man, this is not a good scene. So we're getting there, adrenaline's starting to pick up a little bit. It's like, okay, this is going to be a really bad one. And all the occupants walked out to the structure because they were wearing their seatbelts.
Yeah.
And I won't talk about how I felt about seatbelts at a very, very young age, but at that moment, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
I was blown away with how bad the scene looked versus how little injuries they sustained simply because they were wearing their safety restraint.
Yeah. And I have had similar calls like that where I'm looking at like, I don't know how anyone could possibly survive this, and yet they walk away without a scratch. So,
and literally walked through the stretcher. They were waiting for us, and then they hopped on. I'm like, let's sit you down. Still need to do a head to toe. Make sure he's okay, because their adrenaline's to the roof, and there's the possibility of them not feeling things that are happening to their body right now. But literally, they just had bumps, bruises, and scrapes.
Yeah, it's crazy. So now we know very well. Okay, seatbelts work, right? It's 100%. They're good for us, right? But I'm looking at some statistics. By the 1980s, right? Not that long ago, only 14% of Americans use seatbelts.
Wow,
that's crazy. Like, I was thinking, like, when I was a kid, like, I was trying to think, like, I don't think we remember. Like, I feel like we always were pretty good about seatbelts, but that low of a number, back then, I was like, wow, that's.
I want to speak to that because here's why I think we might have the revisionist history in our minds of why we were so much better. I distinctly remember that once you hit a certain age or size, in the back seat, nobody used seatbelts.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Right. So now think about the number of 14%. So if you've got a family of 4 traveling somewhere, even if, like, let's say it was the regular nuclear family with mom and dad in the front seatbelted, you got 2 kids in the back and they're not seatbelted, right? That car's only 50%. Right. It's only 50% usage. So, and then if you've got 1 person in the front belted and 2 people in the back, right, you're down to 33% usage right there. So I think because of the back seat, I get it. Those numbers are making more sense to me.
Yeah, true. So interesting. So that was 1980s. You're saying only 14%. Well, now by 2023, last time I did a survey, the national use rate was up to 91.9%. So big. I mean, a lot of that, has to do, with, seatbelt laws and things like that. And the whole story, is obviously a little bit more complicated. But one key thing that does play a contributing factor is community engagement,
100%.
public education, having these different awareness campaigns to try to build up so that people can embrace embrace seatbelts. And now, we have like that story, Wesley, where you can have these crazy wrecks and people walk away from it. So
People are okay. Especially because, like, as we're talking about community engagement, and the reason individual stakeholder buy-in is important is each individual has to make that decision themselves. Right? They get in their own car, and a lot of times they might decide themselves. Can't force that, right?
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
So people have to believe in the thing.
Absolutely. And that's where community engagement and education come in, right? It's just giving people the tools to help foster that collaboration and achieving that stakeholder buy-in. So we got to talk to one individual whose job, that's what his job is to try to engage the community and come up with different interesting ways to be able to get that stakeholder buy-in. So I just want to interrupt for just a moment to say thank you to Sawyer Products for sponsoring this episode of DisasterClass. I personally love Sawyer Products. I've been using their water filter and insect repellent for years. Every time I go camping, hiking, spend any time outdoors, I've got my Sawyer products there. I keep a water filter in my go bag. That way, if anything happens, I know it's there when I need it. So whether you're in the backcountry, the backyard, you're on the trail, or doing humanitarian relief, Sawyer products are making an impact. In fact, every Sawyer product you buy is a contribution to their common humanity, bringing clean water programs to people in need domestically, internationally, and through disaster relief missions all around the world. So visit Sawyer.com today to learn more and to find a retailer near you. Before I forget, because that'll be the worst thing if I forget to hit the record button.
Dustin doesn't need to know that. He needs to think that we are a professionally run organization.
I thought this was totally off the record. Like,
oh, one of those
off the record,
podcasts.
off the cuff. We're just chatting. Oh, I love it.
So maybe just to rewind back, who are you and what do you do?
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for having me. So my name is Dustin Ridener. I am the Special Projects Administrator for the Community Engagement Bureau here at New York City Emergency Management. And Special Projects is kind of an interesting title. And really what ends up happening is things that don't fit in the normal boxes. Things, that like people aren't sure where to put it, or here's a new project that we have to like do, kind of comes my way. And it seems somehow I've gotten into building a career on doing crazy projects at times. And so,
Awesome.
it suits me well. It's almost like a jack of all trades thing, and just being able to figure out how to like work through the different pieces of government and find the right person and work through the systems, and then, get something off the ground. And so that's kind of where I have been excelling,
Cool.
at least in my mind. So
now with this Community Engagement Bureau at NISM, what is it? What's the mission? Like, what are you guys focused on when you guys are having meetings? What are you trying to get done? What are you trying to solve?
Our main goal is making sure that New Yorkers have the tools that they need to manage any sort of emergency situation that they might come into play. The more knowledgeable somebody is about how to manage or how to be prepared for any type of disaster, right, the quicker a city can recover.
Yep.
It costs less to recover, right? Not only as a city, but as an individual or a family, right? Like when you're prepared for these things, it makes it faster, easier, and less expensive. And so our goal is to make sure that people have at least the basics, So, one of our big products that we put out there a lot, and we put them out in like at least 11 languages, but we call it our My Plan, My Emergency Plan. And, it's a booklet, and you go through it, and it talks about like the items that you're gonna need. You should have a go bag. These are the items you should put in your go bag. Your go bag's not gonna look the same as somebody else's. It's gonna be kind of geared towards you. Make sure you have your personal documents, right? Your birth certificates, your social security cards, if you have immigration paperwork, if you have, special medication, anything that's important, the deed to your house, right? That was one that was huge in New Orleans. People didn't even have deeds. It was just a house was passed on from, one family member to another when somebody passed away. So it was just kind of like willed to people, and so they didn't even have deeds to prove that they owned a home. So all of these things are super important. Your health insurance cards, all those things, and making sure you have those things at the ready. You have some water, you have some non-perishable food, things to get you through the first couple of days until you can get to safety and get to where all those other things are available to you. So we really focus a lot on really trying to get folks as prepared as possible, and making sure that they have at least the basic understanding of what they need to do. And
so really cool, some of the things they're doing there. One of the things that stuck out to me, and it was right at the end, helping people have a basic understanding of what they need to do.
Yeah. So again, from we start talking about awareness, right? And I love the approach of the Bureau, right? They just are helping educate New Yorkers. I
just want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
I just want to compliment you that you nailed it. You said Bureau.
So I want to say something. I saw that I messed that up earlier, and I wanted, I practiced in the mirror last night to make sure that I got it. So I'm glad that it was recorded that I nailed it. So thank you for bringing that up in such a public forum. No, I appreciate you, Jason. No, that's really cool. No, but for real, I love the fact that that they talk about the education, right? So there's so many different potential issues that New Yorkers could face. So and again, you don't want to be like doomsday, things are so negative, but again, it's just helping people educate that, A, yeah, there's some stuff that happens, but B, there's ways to mitigate that. There's ways to plan ahead so that you can have an effective approach to when those things happen so that you and your family can be made safe, right? So I love that, having a go bag, things that we've talked about, right? Having a go bag, what to put in the go bag, the fact that go bags might look different, the fact that, and it's something that we've said for a long time, the best go bag that you can have is one that you build yourself and meets the minimum survival standard, which we'll get into in later episodes and things. But yeah, I love the awareness campaign.
And I think just that one thing that he said, though, is just, I think is such a key takeaway when we're talking about community engagement. And if our listeners, if you're tasked with trying to engage community, trying to get stakeholder buying, helping them to not just know what to do or what they should do, but the why, right?
Yes.
Giving them the understanding, right? People were opposed to seatbelts because they didn't have a good understanding as to why they should wear them. Now we have a really good understanding, right? There's data. So that's really the key, is help people to understand the why. Now, this is particularly, more important, and it works better if we can get people at a younger age, right? Getting people to have a preparedness mindset is best achieved if you can instill those qualities at an early age.
Have somebody that focuses a lot on educating students in the schools. So they work with like the elementary and middle schoolers, and, because another way to get to the adults is through their children. So, hey, teaching kids, right? You need to make a plan. So when a kid, and I'm a parent, so I know when my kids are like, Dad, do we have a plan? Like, yes, let's go. Let's make a plan. Because you're going to hound me about it until we do it. Right.
Right.
But that's really kind of, part of the point is we want everybody to know, including the children, as soon as they can comprehend.
Yeah. So in this area, one of the things that I liked that he talked about, and that he helps us start to understand, that it can be more than just education.
Right.
I mean, the key is obviously starting at a young age, a way to get to parents and the adults that help make the decisions for households is through the children. Give the children the awareness. They then go home, they talk about it. As a family, you can start putting some things together, but also utilizing different programs to get people involved is another thing that they talked about.
We have a project that I've been working on. This will be the third year. It's our Commissioner for a Day program, where we do an essay contest with high schoolers here in New York City. And, the winner gets to come and do an event with us and get to meet the commissioner and do something special. And so the first year I took that on, we were hosting the NOAA briefing for the hurricane season. So they came for that and got to meet everybody and their brother, the mayor, and the works. And then recently, this last year, we had our Strengthening Communities Community Preparedness Symposium, and they came and spoke about their paper and got to meet everybody and spend the day with us as we were engaging with different community groups from across the city. Interestingly enough, our second winner, her essay was so great, we actually asked her to come and be the keynote speaker. So we had a high schooler who came and was the keynote speaker and just wowed everybody. And so awesome. We had two of our Commissioner for a Days there, the year prior and then the new one. It was pretty excellent. And so that's just one of the things that I've been called on to do. I support our CERT program in any way that I can. We have our Ready New York program where we go out and we do a lot of putting out materials and doing presentations and teaching New Yorkers how to be prepared. And we have our community prep team, which is primarily focused on our Strengthening Communities program. And that is a program that really targets working with networks of community groups in different areas of the city. So when there is a emergency event, whether it be a hurricane or a coastal storm or major fires, whatever that is, we can call upon them to act as the trusted messenger in the neighborhood and to really help get out the information that we want New Yorkers to have in the neighborhood, and also feedback to us on how we can best support some of those folks. So where we can, implement some of those things, maybe we change tack a little bit and help them as well. So we can kind of activate them to help us do some of those things. Our bureau also manages the CERT program for NYSEM. And so that's our community emergency response teams. And we have teams in every borough, I think every council district, and we train volunteers to go out there, and they get trained in first aid, they get trained in some fire suppression, they get trained in how to direct traffic. So anytime you see those, open streets events in the different neighborhoods, you'll see a lot of folks in green that say CERT, and they're there working hand in hand with police, fire, and EMS to make sure that those things go as smoothly as possible. We give them the basic training, and then when we have opportunities that we need volunteers to come help us, we put that out to our CERT volunteers, and usually they answer the call in droves.
So a lot of cool, interesting programs that they're doing. Man, Wesley, to be that was that a high school essay winner and to give the keynote, how cool is that?
That's really cool to be selected as the keynote speaker for that program. Yeah, awesome.
That's a pretty interesting program they have. But Dustin mentioned the CERT program, and of course, and if you've been listening to us, you might remember the episode we did with Dustin's colleague Anthony Escato, talking about the New York City CERT program. So we recommend you watch that if you haven't done so already. And actually, we're going to be doing another episode coming up, diving a little bit more into the CERT program as well. But Wesley, he mentioned this community prep team. Yeah. Building trust in the community. Oh, that's a pretty interesting thing to think about, because when you, especially when you're dealing with a disaster situation, an emergency, especially a large scale, right? Yeah. Having that trusted line of communication, right? Being able to, it's huge. So I loved how he talked about how they're able to try to, turn people, make those connections with those community partners, using them as a source of information in the community.
Yeah, and what he said was, so that's their Strengthening Communities program that he mentioned. And what they utilize is basically internal networks, right? So they, inside your community, different community groups will have little networks formed. And then through that network, they're able to send out, because that network is trusted and secure, they are able to send out that messaging to help people, navigate whatever's happening, right? If there's a major fire or something, stay away from this area, head in this direction, here's what's going on. So yeah, really, really cool for them to be able to utilize different things. And then with the CERT program, I know we're going to talk about this again, and there's a phrase that we're going to start hearing that we want to make sure that our listeners and our viewers start becoming, accustomed to. That's force multipliers, right? So they're really big on utilizing a large volume of CERT volunteers to be that force multiplier. So maybe the first responders, the police, fire, EMS, maybe they're taxed and they're all over the place and they're a little bit thin. They can then insert CERT members who have been given this basic training. They understand how to communicate, how to manage themselves on scene safety, things like that. And they can then assist and just really be the key word, right? We don't want to make this a drinking game or something, but the force multiplier, right? That's really important because we just had an interview with another individual who we're going to be, releasing that episode pretty soon. And he talked about force multipliers also. So again, just some verbiage for our listeners and our viewers, really important. And with community engagement, you have that force multiplication possibility.
Right. Yeah. It's building that network of collaboration, people working towards the same mission. Well, speaking of force multipliers, Dustin mentioned a project that is currently in development with New York City Emergency Management, working to accomplish that in a very interesting way. But want to transition a little bit, we and especially how we came in to be able to start working with you specifically. We want to know about a little bit more about the Safe City New York program that you're heading up. What's the goal? Why is it important? What's the purpose of this project?
So first and foremost, I have to say I have a colleague over at NYPD. This is in some ways it's his baby. He was working on the Naval Postgraduate Program, and this was part of his project. And he saw what Chicago was able to do with Safe Chicago, right? Yep. And he was just like, oh, we need something like this in New York. Let's teach New Yorkers not only stop the bleed, right, but some like hands-free CPR. Mm-hmm. How about talk about some enhanced 911, right? Mm-hmm. Because we're doing these things as a city, but people don't know. Like, did you know you could text 911 and get a response? Like, I bet you, over half New Yorkers don't even know that. So, the vision here is to not only give these, critical life-saving skills to everyday New Yorkers, because those are always going to be the first people to respond. The whole goal is that if somebody called 911, they could say, hey, there's a kit like 1 block away. Right? Go get that kit. Because that might be faster. It might take you, a minute and a half, but, it's going to take EMS 2.5 minutes or whatever, which is still a great time, right? Which like, it's still, it's an outrageously good time, but like that 1.5 minute, could save somebody's life. But like also how to communicate with the dispatcher. If you're on the subway, like what platform are you on? Which direction are you? It's hard to find somebody down there. Right.
It is. As the EMT who has personally gone into the subways and you're walking the platforms and you're going all over the station looking for someone because you didn't get clear directions. It's a lot. So to have that basic communication is huge.
Yeah. So, just little things like that. And we just want to, put that out there for folks. They're just the basic skills for citizen responders, because we're all citizen responders.
Like, listen, Dustin, like everything you're saying is stuff that we have been echoing for a long time. Like even like the mission statement for Instinct Ready is to educate, prepare, and equip. Right? Yeah. And it's those things. If you give people the education, that's huge. Now, if they're prepared to be called to action, that's great. But if they don't have the equipment, the stuff to do it, like even with Jason and I as responders with an ambulance, if I don't have my ambulance, I don't have all my toys, I can't really help you. So what you guys are doing through the Safe City New York program is you're giving them the education, allowing them to stay prepared, and then you're finding funding sources so that you can help equip them by having these bleeding control kits at the ready so that they can utilize them to save maybe someone they know, someone they love. If not, it's someone that's in their community right now that's right in front of them.
Exactly.
We love everything that you guys are doing. We are so happy to have even just a small part in connection with that with you guys. Yeah, so there's a couple things that are super powerful in that discussion. Did I cut you off, man?
No, I was like, I don't know that we need
heading you off there.
You know, I knew you were going to pick that up. Of course, I knocked you for Burio. You're going to get me for heading. Who learned us how to spoke?
Right? Yeah. Good stuff. No, so a couple things that he talked about there that I think are super powerful, and it really echoes things that we've talked about before. But I like his verbiage, and we might borrow it. Citizen responder, right?
Yeah.
That, like, not for nothing, that should start becoming a hashtag that we use, citizen responder, because we firmly believe at Instinct Ready here in Disaster Class that it is our mission and our responsibility to make the everyday responder more effective, right?
Yeah, as our mission, right?
As professional responders, we know that, like he talked about, the response time might be 2 minutes. Jason, what's the average national response time for when EMS?
It's like 7 to 8 minutes, I think, right?
Best case, blue sky day.
A good day, right? Yeah.
Right. So with that discussion now, if we have, when it just comes to the Safe City New York program that they're starting to initiate, starting to build out, that was kind of patterned off the Safe City Chicago program, by having a large number of bleeding control kits in public access areas around the city, it just minimizes the amount of time before someone can start working towards not necessarily definitive care like in a hospital, but toward that transitory en route care that is so important, and that everything else for their care will be predicated on. So if there are bleeding control kits, like let's imagine that they're even at every train station, every subway station, right? We know that once you get upstairs, there's going to be a bleeding control kit. So if there's somebody downstairs that needs something, boom, hop upstairs, come back down. You can start applying some of these life-saving bleeding control measures immediately to them.
So, quick story.
Yeah, go.
When I was still on the ambulance, and he talked about this, and we didn't play the clip, but like a lot of times when we think of bleeding control kits, everyone thinks the mass shooter, right? The active shooter, right? Yep. It's not just about that, right?
Yep.
You can cut yourself with a knife, right? Or so here's a situation. I was still working in New York City, and these people were unloading some stuff from the back of their minivan, and they dropped this kind of metal part from like a wheelchair, and it landed. The lady was wearing like flip-flops, so it landed right on her foot, and so she had this massive gash, started bleeding, and so we responded, and they took like a towel and tried to like create like a makeshift tourniquet, and it wasn't working very well. So having these tools at the ready, even something simple like that, it's unexpected. It's not an active shooter, right? Just an everyday thing that can happen, and that could have made all the difference. Because
I think you're right when we start talking about the lack of always thinking about the massive thing, right? The active shooter, that's the low-hanging fruit, right? But we're talking about everyday situations and everyday scenarios that having these things at the ready, extremely valuable.
And so it really raises the question because, right, developing these projects takes a ton of time, a ton of energy, a ton of resources, but is it worth it, right? Is there the value there?
You save one person's life. You spend so much money putting all these kits out there, but it saves one life, and it's worth it. Every bit of it, right? But it could save a lot more than that if it's out there, and the first life it saves potentially could put such a magnifying glass that people go, oh, this is available. Let's keep doing that, right?
Yep.
So, Chicago, when they did their presentation, they talked about somebody who I think got hit by a propeller on a boat.
Mm-hmm.
And there just happened to be a stop to bleed kit on a PD vessel or a Coast Guard vessel, and they like rode it in. The communication was so quick, they got it there within a minute and a half, and they saved that person's life and their limb. Right? It's not just about a life anymore. It's about the actual saving the limb.
Yeah.
So instead of having one arm, you still have two.
Right.
And that can be all the difference in the world of quality of life as well. So you know, we're ready to go. We're putting this together, you know, we're taking it step by step.
Meticulous, methodical.
It can be a slow process, and that can be frustrating. But once it gets there, it'll be worth every single step and all the time it took, because, you know, you're going to start seeing people's lives get saved.
So effective community engagement programs, right? It does take a lot of work. It takes a lot of money, a lot of resources, but as we can see with just some of the examples he mentioned, right, they can have a huge impact on just helping people, saving lives, right? Absolutely. So if you are a listener, if you're tasked with, right, trying to promote a readiness mindset, which we all should be doing, right? But if you are specifically tasked, whether at home, at work, at your local organization, in your community as a whole, wherever you are, right, explore different ways to get people engaged, to educate them, to help them to understand the why. Because when we help them understand the why, they're going to be much more likely to embrace the things that we're trying to do.
Yep.
So, yeah,
super valuable. And the one thing I think that's also really cool here, Jason, is, you know, New York is learning from Chicago. Right. Chicago, they brought this to their city. New York sees that and is like, man, that's super valuable. We've been in contact with, at Instinct Ready, we've been in contact with some other individuals in other cities, and we know that other emergency managers are looking into this. So we've already had a little bit of experience with this. So if you are someone who's listening and you're in another city, you're like, man, I definitely think that that's something that would be valuable where we are, please reach out. We can put you in contact with the guys in New York. They can put you in contact with the guys in Chicago. We have individuals on our team that have assisted with that. And we would love to, again, here's the word, be a force multiplier for you to help get that program off the ground in your city. And again, it's going to take a while, right? Like, it's none of this stuff happens overnight. But we are available, and we would love to be able to assist you bring that to bear in the city that you're working for and your constituents.
Yeah, because emergency management, emergency readiness is a team sport. So we're all in this together, right? Trying to build that, foster that cooperation, and work together for a common goal, right? That's the goal, that community resilience. So if you want to keep in touch with our friends over at New York City Emergency Management, you can find them at nyc.gov/EM, or you can visit them on social media at NYC Emergency Management and look for the little check mark to make sure that you're on the official New York City Emergency Management page. But as you know, we always have homework. This is DisasterClass.
DisasterClass. Absolutely. Right? Absolutely. So there is always homework. So we're hoping that you guys can just, again, like, subscribe, just share this with people. Send it to someone else you think that might find it interesting. Give us that 5-star rating, leave a review, continue sending in your notes and comments like you guys are. We truly appreciate that. We love hearing from you guys. And the more that you do that, the more we're able to keep this content coming.
Yeah. And subscribing and leaving that 5-star rating, it may seem like a small thing, but it really does help us out. So we appreciate it if you could do that. But we have a special. Now you have your regular work, but now you have a special assignment. So here's the question for you. What community engagement programs for emergency readiness are being done where you live in your community, right? If you've participated in one and you've got to experience it for yourself, write in and let us know how you enjoyed the experience. Did you learn something? How did it go? In fact, if you send in a video clip or an audio clip and we use it on the podcast, we're going to send you a free DisasterClass t-shirt. And I don't know, Wesley, should we throw in anything else?
Yeah, I mean, we want to make it worth their while, so we get them the t-shirt and maybe how about a quick pack?
Yeah, we'll throw in a quick pack too. So send us a video or an audio clip of, a community engagement program that you got to assist with, whether it's the CERT program or something else that's being done in your community. Let us know, and you could get yourself a DisasterClass t-shirt and a quick pack. So don't miss out on that. So you can get us at DisasterClass@instinctready.com. You can send your questions, comments, anything else, concerns. We're doing something bad. Tell us. We want to hear it, right? Or, hit us up. What's that?
Mispronouncing words.
Mispronouncing words. Yes, if you need to correct our grammar, we won't like it. We'll take it. We'll just suck it up. But you can also reach out to us, leave us a comment on YouTube or on our social media channels, and you can stay in touch with us that way too. But thank you so much for listening to this episode of Disaster Class. Stay educated.
Stay prepared.
Stay equipped.
All right, guys, that's it for today. Get out of here. Class dismissed.